Folks, Politico is out with a new story suggesting that Donald Trump offered Democratic Senator John Fetterman a financial bribe to switch political parties and become a Republican. This is everything that's wrong with Washington, D.C. under Donald Trump. Let's dive in. This is from Politico's magazine. The headline is, "Inside the Quiet Republican Effort to Flip Fetterman." As the Pennsylvania Democrat is increasingly isolated within his own party, Republicans are quietly trying to win him over. Start of the article, it's a few days after the election this November, and the results have become clear. Democrats have netted the 4 seats they need to claim a Senate majority. But then there's a disturbance in the force. Senate Republicans and President Donald Trump persuade Senator John Fetterman to switch parties, or at least become an independent, to ensure Republicans retain power in the chamber. Which, by the way, even if it was 50-50, they would retain control in that instance because J.D. Vance is the vice president who would break the tie. Back to the article, it's a scenario that's becoming less fantastical by the day. The political environment is curdling for Republicans, and the quiet campaign to lure Fetterman across the aisle is underway. And here's what's happening, a little bit of context for folks. Democrats are ascendant in basically every Senate race across the country right now. We're looking good in North Carolina. We're looking good in Maine. We're looking good in Ohio and Alaska, potentially Texas, Iowa, all of these states. And if we get to 51 Senate seats, we can basically effectively end Donald Trump's presidency. So they are looking for any avenue they can to hold on to their power. And right now, if Democrats are on track to win 51 Senate seats and Fetterman flips, they retain control. And I've talked a lot on my Substack show, I've talked a lot on this YouTube channel about the need to build a Fetterman-proof Senate majority. And what that means is we need 52 seats. We need to act as if John Fetterman is a Republican, even if he still votes with us 70-80% of the time, even if he says that he's still going to, maintain his position in the party as a Democrat. We should not trust anything that he says, given the way that he has conducted himself. So let's run through the tape and try to get that 52nd Senate seat so that we don't have to worry about it. Because nothing will piss me off more than us having the Senate majority and Donald Trump still being able to get his Supreme Court nominees, his judicial nominees, his cabinet nominees, being able to move forward with the horrible things they want to do legislatively in this country. I do not want to see that happen. Back to the article. Trump has made the sell, offering his patented total and complete endorsement plus, and to me, this is the most important line in here, a financial windfall. I'm actually going to just highlight it real quick so you can see it. To the Pennsylvanian. A handful of Senate Republicans are also gently feeling out Fetterman and responding to his concerns over the prospect of defecting from the Democratic Party, multiple high-level GOP officials told the reporter. Let's talk about what the term financial windfall means, because I got yelled at on the internet yesterday for suggesting that this might be a bribe. What it most likely is, it's not that Donald Trump's going to hand a briefcase of cash over to John Fetterman. What it means is he's going to use his super PACs like MAGA Inc. and the other entities that he has, and he is going to do everything he can to get his donor network to fully fund John Fetterman's reelection campaign so that Fetterman doesn't have to go raise money online or offline from Democratic or Republican donors. All right. Fetterman was famously very bad at raising money from offline donors inside the Democratic Party. And he raised the vast majority of his funds through online contributions. That was how he fueled his campaign. He's not able to do that now because Republicans are generally bad at it. And because Democrats sure as shit aren't going to give this asshole $5 a pop. So he, if he wants to try to run for re-election, wants that financial windfall. Now, to me, that's still a bribe. And I don't think I'm breaking any news here by telling you that a lot of corrupt politicians like John Fetterman use their Senate campaign accounts as slush funds so that they can pay for their drivers and pay for their meals and pay for God knows what else, pay for their travel. All right, I'll give you an example from the Democratic Party. Go look at Kyrsten Sinema. All right, that's somebody that I've worked with in the past who I thought was going to be somebody that would fight for my values in the Senate and didn't. And she used her Senate account on all kinds of stuff because she was corrupt as hell. And then she immediately moved on to become a lobbyist and, just the worst of Washington. And that's what I think the trajectory here is for John Fetterman, too. He wants to be an agent of the Republican Party. He wants to be this guy that gets all this attention. And if he decides to switch parties, there's a pile of cash waiting for him. And even if it's a legal bribe, all right, even if legally what John Fetterman and Donald Trump are talking about is legal, and it may be because America's campaign finance laws are a joke, it's still wrong. It's still corruption. And it's the kind of thing that people hate about Washington, D.C. and American politics today. And I want to go just a little bit deeper into the article here. If Fetterman does flip, according to officials who were given anonymity to talk about sensitive matters, it will be thanks in large part to his deepening friendship with a pair of senators and their high-profile spouses, Senator Dave McCormick and his wife Dina, and Senator Katie Britt and her husband Wesley. But the first-time Democrat who's infuriated his party with his hard line on immigration and staunch support for Israel Trump's nominees, government funding bill, and most recently the president's ballroom isn't yet persuaded. From John Fetterman, quote, "I'm not changing," he told me in an interview Friday when I asked if he was ruling out both becoming a Republican or turning independent. "I'm a Democrat and I'm staying one." Yet at least in private, he's not totally rejecting dropping his D. That is quite the way to phrase that. My God. An editor should have caught that one. When one senior Republican recently brought up the idea of becoming an independent to Fetterman, he absorbed the suggestion and didn't embrace or reject the overture, according to a GOP official familiar with the conversation. In our interview, Fetterman said bluntly, quote, "I'd be a shitty Republican." And that has been John Fetterman's line this entire time. Every time somebody brings up the fact that he's voting with Republicans when it counts, that most of the time when he's going on TV, he's defending the president's agenda, he says, well, I'd be a pretty shitty Republican because I support, gay rights is usually what he flags or something like that. And I can respect that part of it because he has been a good ally on gay rights as far as I could tell. But when you're voting for the president's nominees, when you are voting to support his immigration agenda, this illegal war in Iran, you are a shitty Democrat, my friend. You are not a good member of this party. You are not in good standing with people like me. And I want to show folks at least one, maybe two examples real quick of how poor of a Democrat John Fetterman has been over the last couple months. And let's start here because I want people to see this clip of John Fetterman basically selling out the Democratic Party for opposing Donald Trump's illegal and immoral and disastrous war in Iran, which has completely destroyed the global economy.
But every Democrat, Harris, Clinton, everyone, find a single Democrat in the House or in the House that says it's okay if Iran acquires a nuclear bomb. So why am I the only guy that's willing to vote against this now? Because it's nothing more toxic as a Democrat to vote for this or to agree with Trump on anything. Absolutely, it's driven by TDS as well.
Let's just stop right there because the Trump derangement syndrome accusations are so stupid when the vast majority of Americans oppose this war in Iran. It is destroying the economy. Gas prices are through the roof right now. Diesel prices are through the roof, and that's going to make everything more expensive at the grocery store. We have 13 American servicemen and women who have been killed in service of their country in this immoral war. And what the hell have we accomplished for it? All right, I understand that people don't want Iran to have a nuclear weapon, but based on every bit of intelligence that we have, Iran is nowhere near getting access to a nuclear weapon. So what is John Fetterman, a Democrat, doing, going on TV and parroting the administration's talking points? What is he doing? Accusing the rest of the party of having Trump derangement syndrome when he's out there lying and selling their bullshit and slop. I don't want to hear from this guy about how he'd be a shitty Republican because to me, he looks like the perfect example of a surrogate that they need to go on CNN and sell this awful war. And I also want you guys to see this clip because Fetterman has caught hell from people like me for consistently supporting Donald Trump's nominees. And here he is saying that he would be fine voting to support Governor Ron DeSantis should Donald Trump appoint him inside his administration.
Would you consider backing Ron DeSantis for a cabinet job?
I'm not sure what he's up for the job, but I voted for some of those members of the cabinet because, like Marco Rubio. I think he's done a great job, overall too. It used to not be very controversial to absolutely vote for these kinds of people just because it happens to be the opposite party. Right now, our entire party's we're defined by TDS.
Again, another accusation of Trump derangement syndrome. And I've made this point 1,000 times. I do think there are folks inside my party who are a little bit too focused on being anti-Trump on everything. It's okay if you agree with the guy on the occasional good thing he might do, like when they reclassified marijuana the other day. Now, he did that for the wrong reasons. He was just trying to get a little bit of young male support back. But regardless, that was a good thing that he did. Fine. But the real Trump derangement syndrome are these people like John Fetterman who think that everything Donald Trump does is great, who are staring in the face of an economy that is collapsing, a war that is not going our way, an Epstein Files cover-up that has exposed the wealthy elites who run this country and play by a different set of rules, and then go on Fox News and say how great everything is. To talk about the golden age of America. And look, Fetterman is right on one thing here. It used to not be controversial to support the opposing party's political nominees. But the opposing party's political nominees also didn't used to include guys like, Pete Hegseth, who is not qualified for the job that he has because the weekend Fox and Friends host that Donald Trump has appointed the Secretary of Defense or the Secretary of War, if you're talking to Pete, because he's got to act like a tough guy. Or guys like Kash Patel, who have no idea what the fuck they're doing running the FBI. This is a cabinet filled with self-serving sycophants, and John Fetterman keeps voting for these people. All right. Yeah, Rubio got a lot of support because he was a fellow senator, so a lot of people knew him. But Rubio himself has also been a total disaster. They talk about that operation in Venezuela as if they freed the Venezuelan people, and the new leader that they installed, who is basically just Maduro's number 2, is cracking down on journalists and setting out roaming gangs to attack anybody who expresses opposition to that regime. And they've done what? Gotten oil companies access to more oil fields that they can't even do anything with because it's the wrong type of oil. So what the hell did we accomplish there? This war in Iran has been a disaster. Marco Rubio and J.D. Vance and the rest of them can't seem to find a way out, can't seem to find a way to get the Strait of Hormuz open. And even if they do, it's going to be 6 months until the strait is fully open because Iran has littered the entire place with mines. All right, so let's stop pretending that these guys know what the hell they're doing. And let's stop pretending that John Fetterman is anything other than a Republican operative, all right? He's got a D next to his name. He says he's a member of my party. He caucuses with my party. But when it counts, we know that he will betray us every single time. And so when we're thinking about how we win the midterm elections, when we think about how we build a Senate majority, the goal is not to get to 51 seats. The goal has to be to get to 52. We need a Fetterman-proof Senate majority. I want to make sure that when we win, and we are going to win the midterms, given how unpopular this president is, given how well Democrats are doing in the polls, how good our recruiting has been, we're going to win. But if we win the Senate and we don't have enough to stop this jackass from undermining us every way he goes, we're going to be in real trouble. And the Republicans are acting incredibly arrogant right now. They don't have any Supreme Court justices retiring this summer. They've got guys like Scalia who are old as dirt, who are going to stick it out for another couple years. And that gives Democrats an opportunity to reset and fix what the Republicans have done to skew the balance of the Supreme Court. But we can't do that if John Fetterman's going to vote to confirm Donald Trump's Supreme Court nominees in a couple years. So making sure that we get to 52 Senate seats so that this guy can't fuck us over is super important. And if you're with me in this fight, if you're going to go out there and work hard to elect Democrats, if you're going to go out there and hold MAGA accountable and take our country back from these assholes who are just so corrupt and so self-serving, become a member of this channel, subscribe, engage with this video, and make sure you hit the little bell icon to get an update the next time I post. Thank you.